Chapter 1. The Ride That Nobody Wanted to Remember. If you've ever been trapped on a crowded city bus, you already know that every passenger silently agrees to one rule. Don't make yourself the center of tension. Keep your head down, mind your business, survive your hayride, and get off. That's exactly what I planned to do that Tuesday morning. Instead, I witnessed something so unbelievably awkward that months later complete strangers we reached laughing about it. It started like an ordinary commute, and ended with an entire bus ring not to make eye contact with each other. It was just after 8 in the morning, the busiest part of the day. Everyone looked exhausted before work had even begun. The bus arrived already overflowing with people. Somehow, the driver still stopped, opened the doors, and expected another dozen of who's to quant toad squeeze inside. Against all logic, we did. I found myself wedged between an elderly woman and carrying 3 shopping bags, a college student wearing gent headphones, and a Guena business suit smelling like he'd emptied half a bottle of expensive cologne onto himself. Nobody spoke. The only sounds were the bus engine, the occasional cough, and someone's phone playing TikTok videos without head p honest until another passenger gave him the stare, then outside, rain tapped against the windows. Inside, every window had fogged up from the body heat. It felt less like public transportation and more like someone had packed 50 strangers into a moving sauna. The driver wasn't exactly known for being gentle. Every stop felt like a riding roller coaster designed by someone who hated humanity. When he accelerated, everyone stumbled backward. When he braked, the entire crowd leaned forward like synchronized dancers. An older man ere the front muttered, "One way, this guy's going to lunches through he windshield." A few people quietly chuckled. The driver heard him through the mirror. Then Holden Thiter has shouted without looking back. That got a few more laughs. It figured maybe today wouldn't so miserable after all. Then another stop came. More people climbed aboard. I honestly don't know how they fit. Woman holding agent birthday cake somehow was squeezed through the crowd while everyone desperately tried not to crush it. A teenager airing a guitar apologized every 3 seconds. Someone's backpack caught in the closing doors. The driver sighed so loudly I'd go through Hebus. Either the backpack comes in, high-lid, or the owner stay outside. The backpack won. We finally started moving again. By the point nobody could move an inch. If someone sneezed, 6 other people would probably say, "Bless you." I looked around. Half the passengers stared out the windows. Theirs stared at the floor. Nobody wanted conversation. Nobody wanted eye contact. Everyone simply wanted their tuned. That should notice the middle, aged man standing near the center pole. Huked. Uncomfortable. Not sick exactly. Just nervous. HH3. The question nobody wanted answered. The driver held the bills between 2 fingers, looked at the young couple, then slowly scanned the entire bus through his mirror. His grin grew wider with every second. You could practically hear 50 people thinking the exact same thing. Please don't say it, just drive, please. Instead, he cleared his throat. So, have paused for dramatic effect. Who responsible for that masterpiece? For a second, the bus remained frozen. Then someone near the back let out a laugh, just stone. Another passenger tried to suppress a chuck and failed miserably. Within moments, laughter spread through the bus like domino falling. Some looked openly. Others buried their faces in their jackets. A few stubborn passengers still pretended absolutely nothing unusual had happened. The young couple looked completely confused. The guy holding 2 coffees blinked. "I'm sorry, responsible for what?" The driver simply pointed behind him with the thumb. "You'll figure it out." The couple looked around. Every passenger immediately avoided echo and tact. The businessman suddenly became fascinated by his shoes. The college student adjusted headphones that weren't even playing music anymore. The elderly woman stared out a fogged-up window as if she'd just discovered the meaning of life in their raindrops. Nobody wanted to volunteer an explanation. The young woman whispered to her boyfriend, "Did we miss something?" "I think we definitely missed something." A teenager standing nearby couldn't hold it in anymore. He burst into laughter so hard he nearly dropped Peter's backpack. That only made everyone else laughter harder. The driver shook his head with a smile. "I've been driving buses for 23 years, he said, and that's a brand new record. Now even passengers who had managed to stay area started smiling. The tension was gone. The awkward challenge had officially transformed into shared comedy, almost. Because Unman still looked, he wanted the ground to open beneath his feet. The nervous passenger moved. His hands gripped the metal polios tightly, his knuckle shad turned white. H.O. 5. The unexpected witness, the bus rolled away from the intersection, and for the first time that morning, the atmosphere actually felt comfortable. People who had spent the first 20 minutes avoiding eye contact were now smiling at complete strangers. It was amazing how a ridiculous moment could completely change the mood of an entire bus. The businessman had stopped checking his SWAT age. The elderly woman finally found a place to sit down on her shopping bags. Even a 13-egger with the guitar had relaxed enough to scroll through his mirror. The driver grabbed the microphone. "Copy that." He looked in the mirror. "Looks like we're retaking the scenic route today, folks." A chorus of playful groans filled the booth. "Great," the businessman sighed. "At this rate, I'll retire before I reach the office." The driver laughed. "Relax." Riverside suddenly 5 seconds longer. Nobody complained after that. Somehow, the unexpected tour gave everyone eto. Chapter 7. The Passenger Who Knew Everyone. The bus barely moved. The traffic ahead had come to a complete standstill. Red brake lights stretched as far as the eye could see, reflecting off the wet road like a river frubies. The driver sighed, shifted into neutral, and looked into the mirror. "Well, folks, looks like we're going to be here for a while." A collective groan filled the booth. Some people checked their phones. Others looked out the window hoping the traffic would magically disappear. It didn't. The businessman shook his head. "And I've been stuck in meetings shorter than this." The elderly woman laughed. "At least this meeting is funnier." That earned a few more laughs. Just then, the front doors opened again. A man in his 20s stepped onto the bousui, wearing a flat cap, brown coat, and carrying a small toolbox. He saw the crowded bus and smiled. "Looks like it picked the popularon." The driver grinned. "Morning." "Walter." Walter pointed at the line of cars outside. "Traffic," the driver nodded. "Construction and an accident." Walter shrugged. "Good thing I'm retired. I have nowhere to be." He paid his fare and started walking down the aisle. Then something's strange happened. Every stop Simone turned and said, "Hello." "Morning, Walter." "Hey, Walter. Long time no see. How's your granddaughter?" Walter answered every single person by name. "Morning, Steve." "Good to see you, Nancy." "Tom, your shoulder feeling better?" "Emily, did your dog recover?" The nervous man whispered to the businessman, "Does Hirali know all these people?" The businessman shrugged. "Apparently, the entire city." Walter finally stopped near the middle of Ebus and looked around. Well, something interesting must have happened. Everyone laughed. The driver smirked. "Word travels fast, huh?" Walter crossed his arms. "I've been driving buses for 30 years before you're tired. Can always tell when something funny happened. Passengers don't smile like this before 9 a.m. The little boy immediately raised his hand. "Ik know the story." His mother closed his. "Oh no." Walter grinned. Let's hear it. The boy took a deep breath. There was a big noise and everybody go takwa, then everybody, lopped and then everybody thought it was him. He pointed at the nervous man. But maybe it was the booze. Walter stared for 3 seconds, then slowly nodded. Yep. Everyone waited for the punchline. That happened too once. The bus went completely silent. Seriously? The driver asked. Walter nodded. About 15 years ago. Smiled at the memory. Except in my case, it wasn't the bus. Half the started laughing before Heavenfin issued. Pulled up to a bus stop, Walter continued. The bus was packed just like this. On every quiet morning, suddenly, he waved the shan vaguely. Nobody said a word. The passengers leaned in. Then a little old lady walked up to me, patted me on the shoulder, and said, "Young man, don't worry. One day, you laugh about this." Walter paused. He was 49 years old. The entire bus erupted. The driver was laughing so hard he had to wipe tears from his eyes. The nervous man was laughing harder than anyone else. See, Walter said, pointing at them. You survived. You'll tell this story for years? The nervous man shook his head. I didn't think I'll ever eat at this bus again. Walter laughed. Oh, you will. Because next week someone else will do something more embarrassing, and everyone will forget about today. The elderly gentleman nodded. That's the truth. At that moment, the lane of cars finally began to move. The driver shifted into gear. Looks like we're moving again. As the slowly rolled forward, none of the passengers realized that the most unexpected twist of the morning was still aiding just a few blocks. Chapter 8. The final twist, the traffic finally began to clear, and for the first time in nearly 20 minutes, the bus picked up speed. Passengers let out small cheers as the red lights ahead started disappearing. The driver smiled. Looks we might actually finish this route before lunchtime. Everyone laughed. The nervous man looked out the window and she checked his watch. I'm officially an hour late, he said. At this point, my boss probably thinks he quit. The businessman grinned. Tell him you were part of a historic public tour and sportation event. The elderly woman added, Nobody would believe you anyway. As pupil continued joking, the bus approached the next major stop. The drivers slowed down and opened the doors. A young woman wearing a bus company uniforms stepped inside. She carried a small clipboard and a radio. Morning, everyone, she said. Routine inspection. The driver groaned playfully. Perfect timing. She walked slowly down the aisle, checking the Ziet numbers, the emergency equipment, and the fire extinguisher. Then, she paused near the middle of the bus, her head tilted slightly. Did Daniel Nelson that? The bus went completely silent again. The driver looked up. Hear what? She pointed toward the floor. That air release. The older mechanic immediately smiled. Ah, there it is. The inspector counted down for a second, listened carefully, and then stood back up. Thought so. She looked at the driver. Your rear valve is starting to fail. The driver blinked. Seriously? She nodded. When you brake hard, their pressure escapes through the valve. In certain buses, she paused, trying not to laugh. It creates a very unusual sound. Nobody moved. For a full 3 seconds, the entire bus was completely silent. Then, all at once, every passenger turned and looked at the near busman. He stared back at them with wide eyes. Finally, the driver burst out laughing. Buddy, his eyed between gasps of breath. You were innocent all along. The nervous man covered his face with both hands before starting to laugh harder than anyone else. I can't believe this, he sighed. I've been apologizing with my face for the past 30 minutes. The little boy jumped up. It really was the bus. His parents smiled. Yes, it was. The businessman pointed at the driver. You him an apology. The driver raised both hands. Fair enough. He turned to the man. I'm sorry, my friend. From now on if this bus makes that noise, again, I'll blame the engine. Everyone clapped. The nervous man bowed dramatically. Thank you. I can finally return to the library without hanging my identity. Event the inspector couldn't stop laughing. You re not the first person this has happened to, she said. Actually, she looked at the driver. You were the third driver this month to report the same problem. The driver stared at her. Wait, you mean? She nodded. Yep. People have been blaming each other for their e-weeks. The entire bus erupted on more time. Passengers were laughing, some wiping tears from their ears. Strangers who would have never spoken to another were suddenly sharing the stupidest story of their lives. As the nervous man finally arrived, he walked toward the door. The driver called after him. Hey. The man turned around. Have a good day. Hesmiled. You too, and fix your bus. The driver laughed. Deal. The nervous man stepped onto the sidewalk. The doors closed, and the bus slowly pulled away. As it disappeared down the street, everyone inside realized they had started mourning strangers. But thanks to a misunderstanding, a few bad jokes, and a very unfortunate mechanic problem, they left with a story they would be telling friends and family for years. Because at the end of the day, the best stories aren't the perfect ones. They're the awkward, unexpected, and completely ridiculous moments that induce how a silly, a stranger's embarrassing moment can turn into shared memory that makes everyone smile. The end.